For you as a brand, do you find value in having something kind of for everybody, or do you really just want to be the one thing, the one demographic?
There's a plethora of bourbon barrels now because everyone's overproduced.
Every business in town does events.
Sure.
They'll do like something to help drive revenue and interest.
I'm the co-owner of Gallant Fox Brewing here in Louisville and in Mount Washington, Kentucky.
Today, we're sitting down with the owner of the Gallant Fox, a brewery and restaurant in Louisville, Kentucky. And here's the cool thing. This interview will be nothing what you thought it would be, because he's not only that, he is the VP of social media in a large company. So I think there's a lot of value here for you guys, and I'm super excited for you to listen. How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Thanks for being on. I'm more excited now that you're in marketing, because now we can throw around some like lingo that not a lot of people will get. So if you can, let's just do like a high level credibility thing. Tell us about what you do, what you've done, and some of the, like the big milestones you've reached.
Sure. So just a quick background on me. Again, like you said, Roger Huff. I'm the co-owner of Gallant Fox Brewing here in Louisville and in Mount Washington, Kentucky. So interesting, we got our start. I have one business partner in the business, and we got our start actually being together at a previous marketing company that I worked for. So he was in the IT tech space, and I was on the marketing, client service, sales side, and just engaging in meetings all day long. You talk about what you do on the weekends, and me and him got to talking. We both did home brewing. So one thing led to another, and we started home brewing in the garage. And then, home brewing in the garage with disposable income leads to nicer and nicer equipment. And at one point, my wife was just like, "You got to get this out of the garage. Like, it's getting too big."
Yep.
So back in like 2018, we drove around and looked online, and we found this great little spot in Clifton neighborhood out on Frankfort Avenue. And it was a art collective building, and it used to be the old post office in Clifton. So it got had a lot of soul in the building when we got in there. And we rented this little spot. It was maybe 1,200 square feet, and for a year, we were home brewing, I guess not really at home anymore, and having poker nights and Monday night football watch parties while everybody drank our beer. And people kept telling us, "Oh man, you should do something better with this." And we also found out that we weren't really supposed to be home brewing in a commercial setting. So I'm used to filling out request forms and documentation at the day job. So I was like, I bet I could get us a license to do this so that we won't get in trouble for what we're doing. Yep. And I did it. And then all of a sudden, the Brewers Guild of Kentucky and the news came around, because all that stuff's public once you make the request, right? And once you get the license. And they're like, "I heard you're opening a brewery." So we kind of opened a brewery by accident, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, that is a story right there. So, one of the goals of this podcast is to empower other people to start their own business, do the thing, and pursue their dreams. So I love getting into the nitty gritty, the things where it's like, guys, this is just the reality of it. You guys want to start your own brewing company. How much capital did you guys need to like really launch this thing?
So I would say that we did this as financially smart as we possibly could have done, just because we didn't actually intend on doing this, right? So we originally rented this space that was, 1,200 square feet, does not make a brewery, right? Does not make a tap room, does not make any of those things. But there was maybe 8 to 10 other tenants in that building that were doing different. One guy did a letterpress thing, one guy was a chiropractor, one guy was, so all these subspaces. And we kind of got lucky that a lot of those people started to leave, and we just started to like
eat up.
Well, we took this space, and then that was storage for a while. And then we took another space, and that became storage, and then we incorporated the other space. And anybody who's been to Gallant Fox in Louisville knows that we have expanded that space on 4 different occasions. And most recently, we went from 70 seats in the tap room to 150, which is huge, right, for us. And that was just 2 months ago. So like we've cannibalized that building over and over, but that's allowed us to do it more economically. So I would say that the amount of actual capital that we put in, we didn't take any loans out for the initial location, was probably somewhere in the area of $250,000, but it was over the course of a few years.
A long period of time.
Because we were able to like spread it out before we opened. So we had some space, we did some renovations, then at the very end, the biggest expenses, I think we had to spend like $80,000 to put bathrooms that would get to code and some things like that at the very end. And then we were able to kind of piggyback on, revenue's now coming in. We're not paying ourselves. So that's going back into the business. And I will say, though, that, proving out that concept did allow us to start to think about a little bit more broadly about what Gallant Fox could be. Looking at other communities, we decided we wanted a second location. And in doing that, we were able, with those, having all of your financial stuff kind of locked in, we were able to take that and go to a bank for funding. Our other location, we're well over $1 million into, but it has a brand new full restaurant, a brand new brew house that allowed us to expand capacity. So you prove it on the small side so that when you get to the big side and there's a lot more money and things at risk, you know the way the numbers are going to work out, and you can pull some levers to make it profitable. So.
Yeah, and so walk us through some of the numbers of brewing. I mean, I had the owner of Watch Hill Proper in here, and he was telling me it's like a 30-30-30 split of like 30 for food, 30 for labor, and 30 profit. Like generally there.
That's probably true, especially in our newer location as a full restaurant. What we realized is, so there's much more profitability on the alcohol side, right? So you would think about like, and you know this, like anyone who goes out and drinks knows that you go to a bar and you want to buy a bottle of wine at a bar, and you're like, that's a $20 bottle of wine. Why is it $80 to get that bottle at my table, right? Well, they're factoring in labor costs and keeping the lights on, and the HVAC and the chef and all those different things are being factored in, and food waste, right? So those things are being factored into the bottle of wine. It has nothing to do with food because it's overall, some things you make more margin on, some things you make less. So I would say 30-30-30. Everyone who starts a restaurant wants to be under or right at 30% food cost, right? So that's kind of the magic number. And then labor cost, he's very right, roughly 30%. We try to keep it a little tighter. So we run ours a little bit differently because we are a bar. So we don't have servers at our restaurant. So we overstaff bartenders, and the bartenders act as servers and bartenders and food runners for the whole location. So I think modern technology allows us to be a little bit more flexible. I got QR code menu ordering on the tables. You can come up and order at the bar too. So we have handhelds that we can walk around with, and someone can go bus tables and take a few drink orders while they're out there. So I think as modern technology kind of advances, it gives us a little bit more flexibility to, because no one wants to pay $20, $25 for a burger and fries, right? So anything that we can do to keep labor costs down keeps food costs down as well to the customer.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So you guys put $250K in this thing. Where did you start to see like, we're really starting to make some money with it?
We opened during COVID. So at the very beginning of COVID. So we had no idea what it was really going to do, because the first 2 months, it was just people coming and getting growlers to go. So, that's not going to be a successful, sustainable business model, right?
Yeah.
We were not trying to open as a to-go spot. But once restrictions lifted, I think the first time we realized that we were going to see real profitability was at our Oktoberfest party. So we threw, my business partner, fantastic guy, his name's Patrick Workman. His mother is like first generation German. So we did a bunch of German beer. We do, every year, people know, we do a Helles, we do a Hefeweizen, we do a traditional Marzen, which is like an Oktoberfest style beer. We do a fest beer. So we got, five Dunkel. We've got like 5 or 6 different German beers out of the 24 taps we have. And we got lucky that German American Club, because of COVID that year, decided to cancel their Oktoberfest party. We advertised for one where we were going to do most of it outdoors. Yeah. So like social distancing applied, but I think at that time we could have 50% occupancy inside. So we were allowed to have people in and drinking too. And we had advertised, we did some advertising on Meta, and we did some, people who liked different things that were German themed as well as beers. And the turnout was crazy. And we're sitting there looking at the other side of our building that had a chiropractor in it and all this stuff. And we're like, we need the rest of this building. Right? Yeah. Like we've got we're putting so much money into the building itself. We need to have more of the space. So That was when the conversation started happening with the landlord.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go into that single situation, because every business in town does events.
Sure.
They'll do like something to help drive revenue and interest. Walk us through what all the marketing costs were for that event, like ad spend, all that stuff, high level, and revenue made, energy there. Like basically explain to us, this is how much it takes to have a successful event.
Sure. So you got to think about it overall too. So decorations for the event, right? Glass ordering for the event. Because you're if you're really gonna make, think about these Christmas pop-up bars you see, right? You're talking about they're decorating. They're spending probably 3 days fully decorating. They're putting wrapping paper on their whole wall.
Like Miracle on Market.
Miracle on Market, right? They're putting wrapping paper on the wall. They're hanging it's like Christmas, puked on the space, and that's what they're going for, right? So when you're doing a successful event, you can't, if you really want it to be successful and be a reoccurring event, you can't halfway do it, right? That's one thing we've learned, right? You can't halfway do something. You don't want to just throw some quick Amazon decorations up and call it a day. So, we went in and we put, the German flags all outside, and the blue and white checkered tablecloths on every tablecloth. We ordered, I think the first year we ordered 288 liter steins, and these are like custom logos, right? And these are like $12 a piece cost to us.
Yeah,
that's a lot of an expense when you're talking about almost 300 of them, right? So you're so first of all, never put dates on custom glassware, right? Because if you can't use it this year, you want to be able to use it next year. Yep. We've learned some things over the years, but then you have to have a plan with that expense. So every expense has to have a plan. Right, and maybe it's going to create the ambiance you want. But with the glassware, well, what are you spending $12 on a glass for, right? So with us, it was, we're going to charge $30 for the glass, and they get to keep it, and it comes with the first pour of beer, which is 2 16-ounce beers, basically, right? Yeah. Because it's a 33-ounce glass.
Yeah, it's a big glass.
So it's a big glass. So someone in their mind has to put that together, and you have to have your bartenders trained to explain, this is 2 beers, which our beers are $6.85 a piece on average. So you're getting $13 worth of beer, and you're getting a $12 glass. Well, the goal is that they're going to come back and fill that thing up over and over again, right?
Yep.
And we have a Stein holding contest, and guess what? If you want to participate, it's a $25 gift card to the winner. You got to go fill the Stein back up, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's $12 pours to fill the Steins up for 2 beers, and it's discounted, right? But so you've got to have a plan. You have to have a way for your money spend to make money. So we probably spent on the very first year, maybe like $4,000 on the whole event, and it's a 2-day event, and I'd say that we made well over $6,000 a night for us, which was huge. Which was huge for a company for a business that at the time.
Now that was net profit or general revenue?
General revenue.
Okay.
General revenue, but at the time we're bartenders ourselves, right?
Yeah, so you're doing work.
Our costs were super low, and we only had half the building, so our net rent was only $2,500 a month, right? So now those events generate a whole lot of money, right?
Yep.
So we've got more space, and now we've built up, but that includes, that cost includes like direct targeted ads on Facebook and on Instagram, and there's all different ways that you can design those. You can design those ads. So our whole thing is always what we found most successful, because we're a brick and mortar store and we want people to walk in the door, is we want people, you have to set an event up, and you want people to say that they might attend the event at minimum, right? Some people say they're definitely going to attend. That takes us a second click.
Yep.
But the first click is just, I'm interested in the event. That means it's going to come back up if they click on their event section, shows an event they were interested in before, if they're going to do something for the weekend. But the thing it also does when you set that event up is people who you weren't targeting, when they go into the event section, for the week, like just say that they're looking at what to do today on Saturday, they're going to see all the events in their area, and all of a sudden your event's listed in a place that you didn't even have to pay for that click, because they're doing something proactive on a meta platform. And that's huge. And I think that brings stuff in. Every one of our trivia and theme trivia events gets an actual event page. So we set up event pages for everything that we do.
Now, is that on Meta itself, or where you set up these event pages?
On Ads Manager.
Ads Managers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you make the Ads Manager event page on there, and you run the event so people can then sign up for it. So it's a direct link.
Direct link. Correct. Yeah.
Nice.
We can see how many people say, we can go back and look. And there's always a correlation. You're never, if 2,000 people say they're interested in your event, guess what? 2,000 people are not showing up to your event, right?
Never.
But I can look at that, and what you can start to do is you can start to put, okay, this is how many people said they were interested and had said they were coming to your event. And then you can look at the revenue you made at that event, and there's a correlation there.
Yeah.
So like when I go back and I'm like, oh, okay, we're doing this theme trivia, like our Christmas ale is called Shooter's Full Christmas Ale. And every Christmas we were doing a trivia for the movie. And now we have to do 2 nights of that trivia at each location because people were sitting outside in like 12-degree weather because we had at our outdoor tables because we had no seats inside.
Yep.
So like that's what you want, right? You want that, like you want people coming in and seeing a line and seeing that you're busy because it creates demand. So now we're doing 2 of those, but I know that 5,000 people said that they were interested in coming, and that generated, over the course of those 2 days, 300 additional covers, which is, and I know that my average cover at that location is $44.
Yep.
So now I know the revenue I'm generating for those events. And now I know exactly what I can spend. And I know that I can't, at least at this point, at a certain point, you can't put more in because then all you're doing is driving someone to your facility when it's already full. Right? You don't want someone coming in when your facility's already full, right?
Yeah.
So
now, when you're running these ads, you set up your event for it. Do you? I'm trying to think. What's your average cost per click on something like this?
We do cost per. The way I look at it is cost per action, right?
Okay.
So like, did they say that they were going to come, or did they say that they were interested in coming? So we try to keep all of that under $1.
Okay.
So under $1. If I can spend under $1 for someone to say that they're interested, then that is successful for the way that we generate revenue. So always below $1 for that.
Okay.
Some of those costs per clicks, they could be in the pennies, right? It might only be a couple of cents to get someone to click on that. But if they didn't make an action, then to me, they're not indicating that they're interested in what I'm showing them. Right?
Yeah. Now, with your background and your day job, do you find this applies to other industries as well? Or is it like all brick and mortar kind of applies to this? Or is where's this events thing going?
I think that anything where you have some type of an entertainment, like a bar, a restaurant, anything that's like an event to do, right? I think that applies. I think when you get like brick and mortar for an automotive repair shop is going to be very different.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're not going to be running the same kind of campaigns, right? My campaign is event specific almost always.
Yep.
Sometimes it's product specific. So I might run something like the other day we did $3 beers from 3 to 6 on 2 days, right before or the week. I think it was the week of New Year's, because it's like everybody's doing dry January.
Yep.
So how are we competing against dry January? Well, we're making the offer of wet January way more attractive than dry January. You're getting the beer less than half off, right? So the tap room's packed at $3 beers. I don't make a ton of margin on that, but I'm getting people in the door, maybe some old customers who hadn't been in a while, see the new expansion space. But then I'm also running specials on burgers and on, products. That's more specific to something like, automotive might do, or a grocery might do. They're more product specific. So it's different. It's very different, because those campaigns, they would never run an event campaign. Yeah.
Well, because I'm interested, because I have one of my clients they do a seminar for retirement.
Okay.
And I was just going to run people to a landing page and just generate leads, put a CSV file, call them. My typical sales cycle.
Sure. And then you got a landing page. You probably have it hooked to some Parlo or something on the back end that's going to give you some type of data on people who came in, where they went next. Yeah,
I'll have all that. But now I'm interested if I should just run it as an event.
I think that you should do a multivariate test.
I probably will. Yeah,
because you should look at both of them, right? Either for the same event where you split your lead list off halfway here and halfway there, or you do an event that are very similar around the same time of year, one this way and one this way. And I bet that you would see that you're going to hit a different demographic too.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and also, I do a lot of consulting for like med spas, and every med spa loves doing their they do so many events, like get your facials done, do the thing. And we just haven't done it like that, because I've never ran ads, because I've always been like super high ticket sales where it's like I'm selling 30, 40K items. I haven't done the events thing yet. So now I'm like, we should the events thing. That sounds like a good idea.
$7 beer is a little easier to sell than something big.
Oh yeah, for sure. But low ticket item, low ticket event things is basically what I have a lot of clients who do that, and I've done it through organic socials, which the power. Let's do that. Talk about the power of organic socials just from your experience, real quick.
I love this one. So organic social, paid social, you're going to get eyes, right? So creativity really comes on organic social. So I think one of the best things about AI is that it is making the barrier to good content low, right? So I've always been able to design good content, right? And some people might think that, oh, well, now my competition is going to be up because everybody can do the graphic design stuff I can do. Gemini and GPT and all of those will give you really good ideas for campaigns, right? But at the end of the day, you still have to know how to do it, right? So I love we just recently did an AI push on a couple of beers that we did, and with the different imagery that we were able to use, and now we're able to do these micro videos that are 8-second long. It's funny. Some of the stuff's funny. Some of the stuff's cheeky, but it gets people's attention. And what you want is someone to share it, right?
Yes.
So whether that's a partnership, shout out Witch's Brew Coffee. If you have not been on Frankfurt Avenue, it is a Harry Potter style experience. The walls are completely covered. The coffee is fantastic. The owners are amazing. But we did a beer collab with them in October because that is the witching month, right? And we did a coffee beer. We got their coffee. And then they had these 7 Deadly Sin lattes, and we mimicked 3 of them in a beer. So one was pumpkin cheesecake, and one was apple pie latte, and one was banana bread latte. And they're beers, and we did them as a blonde beer, so a very light beer with coffee and these flavors. And I didn't pay for that, right? I didn't pay them. They didn't pay me. We just did a co-branded thing. But the social that we got from the cool can labels that we were showing, and the reshares that people did, and then coming in for beer launch day on that, and buying mixed 4-packs, and tens of thousands of people over the course of just a couple of days got their eyes on it, right? So that's, for us in a very small community in Clifton, is huge for us, right? So not everything we do gets that many eyes. So whenever a new menu launch, sometimes will be really big like that. But whenever we can partner or we can put something out that's really unique, that kind of grabs people's attention, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Branded partnerships, I think, are things that most businesses don't put enough energy into, or they try it and they're like, it just doesn't work.
Right.
Well, how hard do you really try? Because I have clients where I spent 6 months building a giant affiliate network, and they get 5-10 leads a day now from all those affiliates. Think how much that costs you on a campaign to get 5-10 qualified leads that are your exact demographic.
Absolutely.
And it's great. So, that's a great example of find someone that could match the vibe. You guys probably have similar demographics. You're like, let's just double down on what we both do well.
Right.
And then make it make sense.
And even if your demographic is opposite, that's a good opportunity to breach into a new demographic for your brand, right? So even if they weren't close to us and we didn't have some of the people who were walking with their dogs who come to both of our places, right? It's an opportunity for us to break into another community. I'll give you an example of that. I am a huge European soccer fan, huge. I've been a fan since I was young. Adopted in the very late 90s and early 2000s, adopted Arsenal as my team. Started attending, found the supporters group here, Molly Malone St. Matthews, attended the matches almost every week, took my boys with me who play soccer themselves, got photos 15 years old of us wearing jerseys, setting in the old Molly's, which became the Raven. When they closed, I offered the bar when Molly's and Raven closed as a location that they could come if they wanted, right? It's not the same. We didn't have food at the time. Now game days, I have 100+ people that are Arsenal fans packed into my pub. We're drinking. We make all of our own beer in house, so they're drinking beer that we made for them. Called their fans are called Gooners. It's called Gooners Glory. Tastes like a Guinness. So they're drinking this beer. I open the bar as early as 7 a.m. sometimes for them because the games are 5 hours difference, right?
Yep.
And we're packing the bar out, and because of that. Now, granted, we make good margin on those game days, but because of that, so many of those people have started to come in as regulars on non-game days. And so many of the people that they know now that they've brought to 1 or 2 games are coming in. And now we have this new demographic of people who are coming in who are international soccer fans. Like we might have someone from a group of people, Louisville's has great pockets of international community. So we might have 4 or 5 guys who are Nigerian who come in. And then we have these other guys who are English or Irish. And we just have, now it's become a really cool mix of international community that's coming in and drinking our beer, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. So far being open, if you had to just like top your head, how much has the brand made in total?
Oh, that's a lot. From a revenue perspective, I think last year we were somewhere around $2 million in revenue.
For both locations?
Across both locations. So it's tough. We've been open for 5 years. The other location's only been open for 3. So north of $10 million in 5 years, which is for us way more than what we anticipated.
That's great. Yeah, you're like, this is great.
North of $10 million in revenue, probably. Yeah, somewhere around there. And, our big push going into next year is, I think we figured the kitchen thing out. We were home brewers who started a brewery, and then we learned that business running a bar. I bartended in college, so I had some chops, but not the chops that you needed to run a P&L, right?
Yep.
And then my business partner is fantastic at like operationalizing things. He reads a lot of business books, and he'll come with great partners. Patrick, he'll come to me and he'll say, I think we can do this to get costs down here. I think we could do this, like a waste log for the kitchen, or I'd like to, we have a boutique bourbon bar at both locations. And he's like, I think here's a better way to calculate cost per pour, per bottle, so that we really understand our margins on these things. Like some of the bottles that we had that were vintage, he's like, just because other places are charging $85 a pour, we don't have to. Like, look, if we charge $50, our margin's still really good, and we can cycle those bottles, and it's going to bring people in because they know our prices are lower.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of people in the bourbon community who would say that, like, oh yeah, I'll send people to Gallant Fox because they can get a really good bourbon for not like a lot of money, and they can get good beer as well. So he's done a really good job at that, like kind of operationalized. But our big push this year is, now that we figured the kitchen out, is we're in the process of putting a kitchen into our original location.
Okay.
So, and we're trying to do that without additional loans.
Yeah.
So if you think, so we're taking money that the other location's making and the Louisville location's making, and we're putting that money back in. So we did a build out that we had a really good contractor. So you're talking about $40,000, $50,000 that we just did on the build out. Now we're putting money into the kitchen, just bought a hood vent. They're super expensive.
Yep.
So much like we originally did with the Louisville location, it's a little bit at a time. So we're hopeful by like sometime in, early summer to have the kitchen fully operational there. And then the other big push is, we have a warehouse on Spring Street where we do all of our distribution, and we have some office space there too. All of our distribution and barrel aging, and keg washing and canning and stuff there. But, last year we expanded our distribution. We're in 22 counties in Indiana, I think 15 or 16 counties in Kentucky. So we have 3 distributors in Indiana, 1 in Kentucky. We're going to just expand that distributor network so that we can get our beer out. It's a lower margin push, but I think it's from a visibility perspective, people in our area see our beer at Drake's and Malone's and Roosters and, even some of the golf courses are carrying our beer. And I'll get random text messages from people all the time, and they're like, I'm drinking this at this place, and I'll have to Google it. I'm like, okay, I tell all my people, like, look at the places that has our beer on. And if you're going to go out to dinner, go to those places, buy our beer, right? Yeah. Make sure those taps cycle quick. So, so I think that's another big push for us, is just getting into other areas. Right. So,
yeah, well, it's rare to do what you guys do to the extent, and also you've been able to break into different facets of the food space, brewing space, and distribution space. What do you think's been able to be the key factor to allow you to succeed at such a high level in this space where so many people fail?
I think a lot of people become brewery owners because they like brewing beer, right? And I think that you have to take a step back and say, well, what does it take to run a successful business first? Because just because you make great beer doesn't mean the business is going to be successful. Just because you're a great marketer doesn't mean the business is going to be successful. I think that that's something that a lot of people are learning it, including us in certain ways. Every day you've seen lots of breweries close recently. I think that last year was the first year that there was a net negative on new breweries, right? So more breweries closed than open, I think, last year. It's very close to being even. And they've, you know, when we opened, I think that there were 5,000 breweries nationwide. There was over 10,000 last year. So, and just in a few years, the numbers have like, you know, skyrocketed. So I think there's a leveling out. You see alcohol is down overall. You see some distilleries that are filing bankruptcy, and, you know, there's people who are, a lot of these brands, I saw recently that the Kentucky Owl brand is having some issues because they're trying to do debt restructuring. And I think you don't want to expand too fast, and you want to make sure that as you're doing those expansions that you understand the nuances of the numbers, right? And understand that if business doesn't do what it's doing, because it's never going to do what it does the first 6 months, right? You're new, so you have to look at, well, what is our normal? And then, you know, what can we do to increase what that base normal is? And then from a long-term perspective, could we sustain this at a 30% haircut, right? And if not, then you need to be making steps so that you can operate. You don't want to be cash strapped, right?
Yeah, that's a really hard place to be. And I mean, it's really cool to see a business owner who's able to take themselves out of the emotional care of like, oh, I just love it. Because see, a lot of business owners get in that and they forget, oh, I'm still running something that requires a lot of numbers and finances.
Correct. Yeah. I sometimes I wish that we were just making so much cash it didn't, you know, if I were to win the lottery, I'd have 5 more locations, right? And I'd build the Willy Wonka brewery of all breweries downtown on Whiskey Row, right? So it would be it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I would be making money at it, right?
Yeah, that's a big point. And so as you mentioned, alcohol is down to an extent. I mean, people are drinking less and less, but I know the THC drink route is doing pretty hot right now. Do you guys ever plan on breaking out into that, or just staying strictly brewing?
It's a possibility. About 4 or 5 months ago, we went to just south of Nashville. We went last year at the Craft Brewers Conference in Indianapolis. We met a provider that does the THC botanicals that are the additives to the drinks. We went and met with those guys. Shout out to Volunteer Botanicals, great guys. And they've been in the botanical space a long time, since before the THC craze for the ag bill that kind of made this legal. So they're doing CBD, CBG, lion's mane, all kinds of other botanicals that are going into drinks that are helping brain function and all kinds of stuff. So we were able to look at the plethora of products that are being made with their botanicals, right? The science behind it is fascinating that it's come as far as it is. I think that we will probably wait to see what happens with the new legislation. So Kentucky has unfortunately made it where you can't drink it in bar anymore. So as of June 1st of last year, the Kentucky legislature passed, new bills that said that it's no longer legal to drink it by the drink, right? So you can't do that. Well, you can still take it to go, right? But now there's also a milligram limit per every 12 ounces. So they can't be more than 5 milligrams. And then we've talked to distributors, and a lot of the markets outside of Kentucky, the ones that are moving fast are like 20 milligram drinks. So
it's a lot of milligrams for a
drink.
It's
a lot of milligrams for a drink. Absolutely. If you don't do that, that is a lot of milligrams. But, I think that, we would look at it if, and then the federal government just a couple of months ago with the passing of the new bill, has kind of closed some of those ag bill loopholes on THC beverages. So if you follow any THC brands online, especially like Cornbread Hemp or Kentucky Hop Water, Michael Moeller and his brand is fantastic. And he has a new version that has a THC additive. You'll see them advocating for regulation, right? They want regulation because if it's regulated, then it's not going to be kind of discontinued, right? So they're advocating for how can we regulate this so that we can continue to produce these great beverages. So, so there's a certain amount of people who don't want to drink alcohol. There are certain people who don't want to drink glutened alcohol, right? So seltzers and ciders are big. And then there's a certain amount of people who just want to go out and enjoy a THC beverage and, get their relaxation in a different way.
Yeah, that's a big thing. So my relationship with alcohol over the years is like, I think similar to most. When you're younger, it's great. You're going out, you're having fun, you're doing all these things. You maybe don't understand what alcohol poisoning is yet. Maybe not.
Well, you will.
You will eventually, but you get it. And then you start being like, oh man, my back hurts when I wake up. Maybe I should be a little more cautious of my health.
I feel bloated. I feel gross. Yeah.
I feel gross. But then I tried ciders and I was like, oh, I do like ciders. Never had a cider until I was like last year. I was like, okay, this is cool. And then I had a Hector's. I love Hector's. I was like, this is a great drink. I can function the next day. This is cool. So for you as a brand, do you find value in having something kind of for everybody, or do you really just want to be the one thing, the one demographic?
No, I think that we find that we want to be, we would love to position Gallant Fox as more of a beverage company, right? So and I think all of our locations we know need to be to be able to offer beverages that we make, unique beverages that we make, but also have a restaurant behind them, right? So you're looking for diversity in product and diversity. You need to bring people in with lots of different things. And when I say a beverage company, if the regulations for THC beverages loosen, or it gets regulated in a way that it makes sense to invest in those types of things, definitely that. We're already making a cider. We're already making a seltzer. We make beer, right? We would be, we've looked into the idea of sourcing now that there's a plethora of bourbon barrels now because everyone's overproduced and the market they call it sourcing whiskey, right? So if you go to a Total Wine, I would say half of the bourbons on the shelf don't have a real distillery behind them. And when I say that, that means that you go and buy X brand doesn't have a distillery. They're buying from one of 4 or 5 major players who are selling barrels to them, right? So of course, Woodford and Buffalo Trace and those guys have distilleries, but a lot of these guys that you see that are popping up that are new, they're blenders. So they're getting barrels in and they're blending barrels together. They're creating unique products, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're putting, different wood finishing in. So there's still this art to what they're doing, but they're not having to invest the capital to stand up a distillery behind them. So the cost of entry to that has always been lower, but now what you're seeing is the cost is really low because there's a plethora, the supply and demand. The supply of bourbon right now is better than it's ever been, and it's only going to get bigger as as drinking goes down a little bit. They're planning for they're making bourbon at the rate where the boom was because they didn't want to miss out on it. By the way, it was very, very inexpensive once you have the equipment to make those things, right? Just like it is with beer, the capital investment is at the beginning, right?
Yep.
So of course they're overproducing, right?
Yeah.
Because at that point you can, but now we're in the situation where there's just a lot of product setting. So
yeah, whenever there's that market correction, you have to be aware of it, but also there's a good opportunity to realize why the market's correcting and where you can fit into that. Right. I see the same thing in my industry because people have all these online podcasting platforms and all this stuff.
Sure.
People are like, oh, and AI can't clone you right now. I can record 30 minutes of my footage and just clone myself, and I'd never have to sit in front of a camera again. But you missed out on the experience.
Right. The experience, for sure.
Experience. I think that's where every business, if they double down on let's go pick your own barrel out. Because that's what Watch Hill does. And I was like, I would pay for that. I'm not even a bourbon drinker. Yeah. I would pay for that because it's an experience. So where are you, I know you're using events, but where are you using experiences right now in your business?
I love that. And I'll say this, there's a lot of brands who are doing that. I think Pursuit United is doing that right now, right? And they've got some great stuff, but it's especially when you don't have the prestige of being this old brand, people aren't going to, we're not Country Boy Brewing, right? We're not one of the pioneers. We're not West Sixth. We're not one of the pioneers of Kentucky brewing. But we wanted to carve out our space. So when we carve out our space, we want to create good, like you said, good experiences. So when you come in, you're like, man, we have people who come in because they find us and come back oh man, we went to that Oktoberfest party and we had so much fun doing Stein holding and boot chugging we saw in the Beer Fest movie and all these games that we had we had food set up where we were making food outside and it's oh, well, I'm getting, the big pretzels and bratwursts and I'm having an experience, right? Mm-hmm. I'm having a German experience. Or, when you come in for Christmas and our place was just completely packed and all of our Christmas themed beers were there and, it's an experience, right? And I think you have to create that for people. You have to make them. I always say, I hate walking I love when I go travel, I always, for my day job, one of the things I love about that is no matter what city I'm in, I always get an opportunity to go check a couple breweries out.
Yeah.
And you can tell about the people who really understand the whole thing of having your location have a soul or heart, right?
Yeah.
Because you walk in and it's bright light, looks like a warehouse, colored gray walls, right? Like maybe there's a couple of posters on the wall of their beers, but it's not like when you come into our place, we make sure, birchwood wallpaper, taxidermied foxes. We've got stuff everywhere. Before AI creation was the thing, we had graphic designers do pictures of foxes that are like people in military uniforms and stuff. We just have we wanted you to have an experience that, two things, this outdoor animal themed experience, but also, we're named after, we're both from Kentucky, and we wanted our brand to say that we were Kentucky, right? So we make Kentucky beer, we sell Kentucky bourbon, and so we're named Gallant Fox. It's 1930 Triple Crown winning racehorse, right? So there's a lot of horse-related stuff. So like some of our beers, Trifecta, which is a triple dry hopped IPA, High Stakes Hellas. Like we have a Photo Finish, which is a Derby dessert. I'm not allowed to say that because it's registered trademark. A Derby dessert themed beer around Derby time, which is delicious, right? So pecans and chocolate porter. I mean, it's vanilla. It's great. But having a theme and having that and staying on brand with some of those things is really important because people think about those things. Even subconsciously may not realize that. I've had this experience and I want to have it again. So
yeah, I remember being in school and one of the first things I learned about advertising, I mean I think 6th grade, like middle school, is Coca-Cola doesn't put money in the billboards because it makes them money. They put money in the billboards because it's just that reminder. Yep. It's like, how do I keep tapping your head, even when you don't think about it?
Sure.
So for you guys, someone sees a fox now, that is now a tap. Right. Even indirectly, because you're putting all this energy and advertising in to be like, all right, no, I want this thing to be a correlation of my brand.
Exactly. And like you said, you always spend money, and we have these conversations a lot. I love this. The dichotomy of me and my partner is great because we are completely different people, right? I would spend money on everything visual, right, if I could. And we literally just had this conversation this week about all of our glassware is branded. And not only is it branded, it's unique glassware for different styles of beer, right? So it's way more expensive. And I heard it, and he heard it at a brewers conference once. If people aren't stealing your glassware is bad. Yeah. Right? So people steal our glassware, which is a loss for us, right? We're constantly ordering new glassware. So we've made, we meet in the middle. We used to have it, all of our glassware was gold logoed, like the shiny gold. So now it's all white logoed, right? Because 90 cents more a glass, I can't justify that walking out the door. Yeah. But I have to have a branded glass, right? And now, we're even doing stuff for the Shitter's Full Christmas Ale. We did, through the wonderfulness of AI, we were able to put a moose mug with our beer name inside of it on this stemmed glass. It looked like a Christmas sweater, had our brand on it. And we're able to sell those glasses. People get a great stocking stuffer, and we're able to make extra margin during a slow month. Yeah. So I think that's a great quote there, is that if your glass isn't worth stealing, it's not good enough. Right. Great example. I picked up my girlfriend from the bar because I'm always the DD. And she was like, I got a glass. And I was like, why did you take the glass? She was like, it was amazing. And I'm like, I would just buy you, I could just buy your glass. But that is a good thing because someone doesn't want that for themselves. Sure. And the branding's a little weak. But that's a great thing to strive towards. It is. Having your glasses stolen. And I think, I'll not forget, before I opened, my old roommate, Ryan Rogers, owns Feast Barbecue. And he had this glassware, and he had its slogan on it. It says "smoked meat every day," right? So it's like an old hip hop throwback, right? But the logo for that glass was done by Brandon Bass, who's another friend of ours, and people were still on that glass a lot. So he told me, he's like, I've made the purchase of that glass so cheap so that people will feel like they don't have to steal it, right? Because it's so cheap. It's like, oh, it's like $5 for the glass. Like, of course, I'm just going to buy it. So now we've taken kind of that same approach. It's like, I'm not going to make my month's rent and utilities on glassware sales, make a few bucks on them. But we're not trying to price gouge for our glassware. So yeah, you got to be mindful of that. So all right, let's take a little bit of step back from the brewing and go into day job right now. What's the main reason you haven't just full sent it into Gallant Fox yet? Well, in all transparency, I mean, I'm at VP level, so it would be difficult for Gallant Fox to pay me what my job pays me today. So it's if I could leave today and only do Gallant Fox, and I would have no change in income and stuff like that, I think that would probably be the way to go, right?
Yeah.
Without question, be the way to go.
Yep.
So
Yep. But the VP level is still very enticing.
yeah. And I learned the things I learn on a daily basis, because the industry for digital media, CX, customer experience, is changing so rapidly with the rise of AI. Like people just don't realize. I think people are starting to realize, right? I think the first thing, so part of what I do is in call centers. Like we do call center support as well. So I've always stood up social media support programs for large brands. But so the automation, one of the first things to be automated was like customer service agents. Now you've always been able to know that you were talking to a bot on a chat platform, right?
Yep.
But now there are real voice agents that aren't people, right?
Do you guys use Smart
AI.
Assist?
Yeah. Well, lots of brands that are similar to that. Right?
Okay. Yep.
So, and a lot of the companies in our space have their own that they've utilized the backbone of, a GPT or a Gemini, right? So, so I don't think people really noticed it happening when they were talking to the agents, but now you're seeing things like AI actors in movies. AI, like we were at the bar the other night, we had our annual employee party and my business partner turned the song on. He was like, this song is completely AI. The person's not real. It's all generated and it's an incredible song, right?
Yep.
And you're like jamming to it. So I think now you're seeing like SAG-AFTRA, like the guild, the Actors Guild is saying like, oh, we've got to stop this, but it's going everywhere, right? It's going to be able to do your taxes for you, complex taxes for your business. So it's going to be able to help you do home ownership documents. So you're talking about lawyers are going to be impacted. Real estate agents are going to be impacted. There's a lot of things. The things that aren't going to be impacted are the jobs where you actually have to have somebody like someone to come into your HVAC.
Yep.
It's not going to be able to do that, right? So there's a lot of jobs I think that are being impacted. And I think the people who will be the most successful are the people who embrace it.
Yep.
And that's what we've tried to do. The other day I used it. Cheeky post on social, Dry January is in full swing. So we used AI to create a fake letter from the governor talking about how Dry January was canceled in Kentucky. And we had over 10,000 views in 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
And most people, we made it so people understood it wasn't real, right?
Yep,
So like with cheeky language, and instead of signing Bashir's name, we signed Andy from Toy Story's signature on the bottom of Woody's boot. So it made people laugh, but also like being able to know that you can use it quickly to create something great that can use what's going on in the industry or what's going on, from a geographic perspective, anything that's happening right now, to kind of seize on that what's viral at the moment, right? It used to be people just used hashtags, whatever the hashtags were, even if it didn't really relate to what your post was, so that you get eyes on it. But now you can create something that's specific for it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of what I have to do in my job is educate my clients how algorithms work, why we're posting what we're posting, because everyone has their own opinions of like, well, I think we should do this. I'm like, you can, but it's not gonna get you the result you want. Like you can do what you want all day, but I just understand that this isn't what happens. And I did gym humor for a lot of my content for a while and probably got maybe 500 million views. So it got a lot of eyes on it. It grew really, really fast, but it was just commenting on common trends. It was all humor based. Now, as you know, how do you leverage humor-based content versus conversion-based content? Because for me, they're different. Like my humor really doesn't convert, but my educational stuff makes so much money. But the humor then draws eyes to the brand.
100%. That's exactly what I was going to say. The humor-based content will get people looking at your brand, but it's not what's going to bring people in the door, right? So I think you have to have a mix. So like I would assume you're probably doing like a monthly content calendar the month before, and then you're leaving room for stuff that you can put in ad hoc if something comes up and it's appropriate, right? So what I always try to do is a nice mix. I don't want all of my content to be about product. I don't want it to all be about events. And I talk to that. So my wife, her day job's in marketing. So she does all of our social for us, right? Nice. We have a really nice triumvirate like here with she does the marketing. My business partner, his wife's a VP of HR. So she does all of our human resource stuff. And
you got a lot of assets.
Manuals. Like we have it. She does the hiring. She does all that. So we have a really nice team. But when I'm talking with her about like what kind of content we want for the month, obviously we know what events we have. And physically getting stuff in front of people when they're in your spot is big too. So we do posters inside with our monthly event calendars. So people know if they're here on the 2nd. They come back on the 13th because the band, we do live music. Maybe a band they want to see is going to play, or we're going to have a trivia that they want to. I think we have Ted Lasso trivia next week.
Nice.
So like some fun things that are going on, but you're right. You have to have both, and you have to kind of weigh it, because some things will be successful and some things won't. And, sometimes someone outside of just me and her will say, oh, I'd like to see this or this, and we'll see if it works.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you can do it is test it. So
Absolutely. Well, okay. So before we wrap up, what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone wanting to start their own business, do their own thing, in regards to marketing, where it's like, hey, if you just do this one thing, I know it's not that simple, but if you do, what's the main piece of advice you would give them?
I would say that the main piece of advice from a marketing perspective is to build a real lead list. Build a lead list. So if you're a POS place like us, like sometimes I think people at my business get a little upset at me, because if you want to order food on our QR codes, you have to give me your email address.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, it's great.
If you want a receipt, you have to give me your email address. But I'm constantly capturing data. And guess what? Now my system, and I got a POS system that's smart, and get something that's smart enough to help you, right? You can't do it all yourself. But I know now, and I have ticklers set up, that if my top customers drop in the amount of spend, I can do something to get them back in the door.
Yep.
Right. So, and I know, right? Because those guys who come in every day, you don't want to lose them. They're the core of your business, right? And what you want to do is you want to create more of them. So you want to see what is bringing them in, what kind of content is bringing them in. So I would say the biggest thing is know your customers, build that list, get their data so that you can understand them.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being on, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Talk soon.
Uh-huh.